Yes, people, yes, people, yes, people. Welcome back to the We Talk Football podcast. Now, big question today. This week, obviously, me and Quaker have been talking a lot about England's selection and who's going to go to the Euros. We spoke about the attacking midfield situation and how hard a decision that Gareth Southgate has. But how hard, how easy is the decision for Gareth Southgate to be picking his strikers right now? What do you think, Quakes?
Harry Kane's nailed on. He's on the plane. Probably England's best player, one of the best strikers in the world. The only issue with Harry Kane is his injury problems. He's got ankles made of tuna. But the other,
What? Ankles made of tuna.
yeah, bro, his ankles are weak. But
what are you talking about? Ankles made of tuna?
yeah.
Did you mean to say tuna?
Yeah, you've never heard that phrase before.
Oh, that is mad to say. Right, carry on.
But we should make the thumbnail a picture of like Harry Kane and like tuna. But the other options are like up for grabs, or the other places are up for grabs because you've got DCL, who's obviously banging in goals, but he went off with an injury against Spurs in the FA Cup. You've got Patrick Bamford, who is probably his first season, or is his first season really scoring goals at the top level. You've got Calvert-Lewin, who's had injury problems and is injured again now. You've got Danny Ings, who's had injury problems, but again is guaranteed to score you a goal. And then you've got people on the outskirts. So you've got the Mikel Antonios, you've got the Tammy Abrahams. I'm missing somebody. There's somebody I haven't said. But there's so many strikers.
Patrick Bamford.
Oh no, I mentioned Patrick Bamford. There's so many options, and Jamie Vardy, who's in the international retirement, who if Gareth Southgate really wants to push it, he could give him a call to get him on the plane. So there's so many options for Southgate, but there's just like those players who are just sitting below like the upper echelons of strikers and more football or in Premier League football. It's difficult right now, but you can take your pick out of those six.
I mean, for me, I think it's quite a simple decision. So I think the top three are nailed on currently. I think Harry Kane has to go. Like you say, England's best player, if not one of the best players, arguably the best striker in the world at the moment, other than Robert Lewandowski. So he has to go, and he has to start, really. I think secondly, I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin's done enough this season to suggest that, to really cement his place in the squad. I think he can offer something, and I think he's really starting to flourish under Carlo Ancelotti, and he's a player that you can utilise and will offer something different to Harry Kane. My third choice, I think, it's got to be Danny Ings. I think Danny Ings, obviously, he's very unfortunate at Liverpool, but I feel like Danny Ings, he scores goals, and you can't ask much more of your striker. I think the fourth place is where there is really some competition right now. I think there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of players in the league, especially this season, who are actually performing quite well. You've got Patrick Bamford at Leeds having a great season.
Ollie Watkins.
Ollie Watkins. Of course, Ollie Watkins. You got so Patrick Bamford's proven a lot of the naysayers wrong. You only had to listen to TalkSport at the start of the season. You could see how even Leeds fans were saying he needs more than one chance, but he's doing really well this season, scoring a lot of important goals for Leeds. They're a top half side now. That's very hard to do as a newly promoted side. Obviously, Callum Wilson at Newcastle being very much a bright spark in that Newcastle side. How well are Newcastle going to get on with his injury? It's very difficult to say. Ollie Watkins has, Aston Villa have been a revelation, completely changed their they've brought in a lot of signings over the summer, but completely changed their fortunes from where they were a year ago. So Ollie Watkins, he's got to be in there with a shout. Mikel Antonio, again, he's injured now, but he's like, since the return of the last season, he's been fairly informed when he has been able to play, but again, very injury prone. Yeah. And then although Tammy isn't really performing as much as a Chelsea fan would like, or as much as he would like, I would imagine, he's going to be in the selection process. His name's going to be in there with a shout, just because he's been in previous squads. He knows what it's like to play for England. He knows, what it's like to be in a Gareth Southgate squad. So I think, like you say, there's so much competition. If it's me, the one person I'm taking for fourth is I'm having that conversation with Jamie Vardy on the phone. I want to see if I can get Jamie Vardy to come, out of retirement and get into that squad. Then he's the guy I pick. If not, then I think it's got to be Patrick Bamford or Ollie Watkins. I think on form, if you're picking on form, those two are very, very, very solid.
I think it's interesting to look at it. I just looked at the league table, and all these strikers we're talking about, apart from Jamie Vardy, are strikers that are scoring goals for teams that aren't in the top four. So I think a lot will be predicated on where these teams finish as well. Because if you're the leading goal scorer for a team that finishes in the Champions League places, then I think it's almost impossible to not get selected. So say Everton make the push and they make the top four, that would inevitably mean that Calvert-lewin would have scored goals. So I think he'd be on the plane. Jamie Vardy, obviously, like Leicester, you kind of expect them to finish in the top four of the season, but you don't know. Looking at it, Aston Villa have got games in hand. They're not even too far off of the top four.
No.
Like, if say West Ham make the top four and Mikel Antonio is West Ham's leading goal scorer, then he's in with a shout. So it's just interesting to see that these strikers that we're talking about are just, they're scoring goals for teams that are not at the top of the Premier League. Because I feel like if they were at the top of the Premier League, it'd be without a shadow of a doubt they'd be going because you're playing for a team that are challenging for the top places in the league, and you're scoring goals for that team as well. So I do think a lot will depend on where their teams finish as well this season. Say Leeds were to finish in the bottom half of the table this season, and Bamford gets to maybe 14 league goals, I think you might look at him a bit more negatively than if you were to finish like fourth or third or second.
Sure.
So
I think for me personally, obviously I've spoken about this before. I think a lot of those strikers all bring the same thing. And I think if you have to say one striker that's going to bring something different to what the other three do, you're going to laugh at this. I think Mikel Antonio is a different proposition.
You're right. I'm going to laugh at this.
No, every other striker that we've mentioned, Ollie Watkins, Patrick Bamford, Callum Wilson, Jamie Vardy, I would put separate to this, but all the players that we said are really in contention for the fourth spot. I don't think they really bring anything different to what the top three do. That's all I'm saying. But I think Mikel Antonio is a completely different player to what's in there. And I feel like in the 60th, 70th minute, if you've really exhausted all of your options and you need something to change a game, I think Mikel Antonio holds more ability to change a game in his hold-up play, his sheer athleticism. I think he's more powerful than all of them put together. I think he has the ability to change the game and really bully defenders. The only thing you can say, though, he hasn't really done that on an international stage before, so he is unproven on that level. But I just think he holds a different set of keys. He's like a different proposition. He can bully defenders more than what the other guys can. So if I'm picking my four and I'm picking with my heart, I put Mikel Antonio on the fourth spot. But ultimately, he's a fourth choice striker. He probably doesn't get on the field. Doesn't get on the pitch.
I don't think that. Like, I'm just trying to decipher what difference Mikel Antonio, or what kind of different traits he would bring in comparison to Calvert-Lewin. I think they do similar things. Maybe he's more powerful than him, but in terms of pace, in terms of ability in the air, in terms of the ability to hold up the ball, I don't think there's too much difference between Mikel Antonio and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, apart from the fact that Calvert-Lewin has been scoring more goals this season.
Again, Calvert-Lewin, great player. You only have to look at the bet we've got on right now to see how much I back him, But I would still say that I think, although they've got similar tendencies, I do still think Mikel Antonio is going to provide a different kind of outlet to what DCL would, just because of his physical attributes, because of his power. And if, England, if we're in the last 20 minutes of the game and we need to go route one, I would rather have someone like Mikel Antonio charging down on a defender than I would Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Really?
I would rather have Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the box on the receiving end of a ball, whereas with Antonio, I feel like you could have him run the channels and maybe he would have, power or like physical superiority over defenders, I would imagine. So he can bully people, but that's me picking with my heart.
Yeah.
I think, like, although I do think there's some logic to that, I don't think he'll go. I just think he could offer something different. And it's a shame that he's the age he is, because he probably won't get a look in.
Yeah.
Regardless if he scores 15 goals over the rest of the season, I just don't think he'll get a call up.
If West Ham finish in the top four, which is not which is insane to think now, which is not out of the question. If West Ham finish in the top four, Mikel Antonio is West Ham's top scorer. I think Mikel Antonio is in with a big shout of going. I feel like a lot is predicated on how these teams finish and how the season finishes. Because the only problem Mikel Antonio will face is the West Ham conundrum. Is like the fact that West Ham haven't gone and bought another striker. He's going to get.
I don't think Mikel Antonio will go, and I also don't. You only have to go back and look at our previous videos. I don't think West Ham will finish as high as what I may have anticipated. Just purely because our lack of ambition in the transfer market, I think, is going to be our detriment. And you only have to look at our squad now. Look at us against Man United. We had no options really. We brought on two 18-year-olds. there's really a lack and there's a lack of depth in the squad. So yeah, I don't think Mikel Antonio would go. I would like him to go because I feel like he's a good enough player and he offers something different. You know, he come up a different way in football. And
do you think Tammy will go?
Well, again, I think Tammy's always going to be in that conversation just purely because of his experience playing at international level. He's been in the previous squads. If I'm honest, I would actually rather see Ollie Watkins go or Patrick Bamford maybe go, because it would just be nice to see someone new. You know, they've both come from lower leagues in football, especially Mikel Antonio. But like, I think Ollie Watkins this year is having such a good season that someone like him, you know, bringing him on, he's going to offer something different. But again, with this argument, we've got the top three nailed down. I think the fourth choice, how often are you really going to have that person going and playing in the actual games? It's going to be difficult. But I suppose it's something that we need to leave to the comments anyway. So what do you guys think? Who are your four choices as striker in the England squad? Let us know. Let us know in the comments.
Nice one, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe to the video as well. We'll be back with more videos tomorrow. Sweet.
Cheers.